Welcome, everyone. We've got Mark Hunter speaking with us. He's going to be talking about how to create your client attracting web pages with WordPress. Mark Hunter, he is a WordPress web developer who geeks over coding and new apps, but he also has a lighter side too. Mark enjoys conversations with his friends and playing with his defiant cat Prue. Mark's been around our network for years, many, many years. Maybe he knows how long. I just feel like he's always been with us. And he has helped me out of some major WordPress issues going on, and also sped up our website to 99% speeds that, everyone would Google over. That was really, really awesome, Mark. Anyways, he is here today, and he's going to teach you guys how to create your client attracting web pages with WordPress. And thanks, Mark, for coming and joining us and sharing with us. Here's the microphone for you.
Oh, thanks, Tanya, for that introduction. Yeah, I've actually closed my blinds so the cat can't see in, so we should be fine. So today I'm going to talk about, creating the client attracting website. We're going to focus more on the critical pages that virtual assistants really need to be aware of. Because, every website has a different kind of structure and flow depending on the business. And this one's basically customized to freelancers and virtual assistants. So with that being said, I kind of want to start off and kick the conversation off with, why do you think, now there's no right or wrong answer here, it's what you think, but do you think a website is important to your virtual assistant and a virtual assistant business? And if so, why or why not? So Tanya, I'm going to take about 30 seconds to 45 seconds to just ask the attendees here if they feel it's important, or if they feel it's a waste of time. And if they feel it's important or whatever, just tell me why.
Okay, cool. Are you going to look at the chat then, Mark?
I can see it here.
Okay, cool.
Monitors up, basically. Yep, so a lot of people saying very important. Andrew's saying get your name out there. Storefront. That's you, Tanya. Yep, storefront. So, yep, they're going quite fast now, but I think everybody's in agreement that it is important. And one thing I will note is, I think even though it's important, that credibility is a big one, Karen. I think a lot of people don't realise, just how to use it to the maximum effect, if you know what I mean. So what I will do now is I'm going to give you a few of my insights into just some reason I think it's important. I know some people here have mentioned, like Anne said, it's an introduction to your prospects. So here are some of the reasons I believe it's important. So yes, it showcases you as a professional, because quite honestly, when I'm going out looking for somebody to help me, I kind of get disappointed, Tanya. I don't know about you, if they don't have a website. It's like, I'm not disappointed by the person not having a website, although that might raise questions to some people. I'm more disappointed that I can't build that relationship with that person and understand more about them. It kind of also tells people what you do if you can get your message very clearly. And it actually has marketing opportunities too. Tanya's always talking about build that list. If she started again, she would build a list straight away. Although, Tanya, I'm sure you did build your list straight away. But some people, including me, it's a while before you even get a simple newsletter up on our website. So there's definitely opportunities in many areas. So I'm just going to introduce myself again. I know Tanya already has. Basically, yes, I'm from Australia. I know a lot of people hear the accent. Most people know what it is, but yes, I'm one of those from down under. I'm in Queensland, Australia, so it's kind of you kind of have sort of slightly different accents in Australia. Like in Melbourne, it's more like a posh accent, so you will notice slight variations, but to you Americans, you probably don't really notice. Anyway, we said about the cat. So me, in my background, I am a programmer first and foremost. That's kind of my love. So PHP programming, coding. Recently, in the past 3 years, doing WordPress kind of plugins and stuff. And then there's web design. I had to actually sort of like grow into that. Digital strategy, I had to actually grow into in the past 10 or so years, because most clients really need a little bit more hand-holding. And then, I guess everyone knows I'm the WordPress geek. I love WordPress. I get excited about it. Sometimes when I talk about WordPress, Tanya, you probably notice this, I kind of talk a bit fast, because, I talk fast when I get excited. and I'm also, I guess you could say, a part-time copywriter. It's been born out of necessity, and I can write some pretty great copy that converts well because it's just something I have to do in as part of the website ecosystem. So let's move on. Tanya, was that a beep?
Yeah, I don't know what that was. I've heard it once before in this whole thing, but I don't know what it is.
Did Danielle enter the room? Anyway.
Yeah, it might be her.
Asked it, Danielle. Anyway, so you might be wondering why WordPress. There's so many different, website builders out there. I'm going to give you my take on why I feel WordPress is the best. Some people say it's not easy, and that is true, but it can be as difficult as you pretty much want it to be because it's so flexible. And one of the biggest things you'll probably find about WordPress is it's actually really great for SEO because of the way they've structured it. It all depends on the theme, of course, and the plugins, but all in all, WordPress is built for SEO, and quite honestly, it's really fast. Now, you might not have said it was fast like maybe even a year ago, but since they introduced the block editor and the whole WordPress team's been working on speeding up the insides of WordPress, so now with the proper caching plugins, as Tanya illustrated to you with me optimizing VA networking, you can get it pretty fast. Of course, that depends on your host, just a disclaimer. So let's start off by just saying what we're going to talk about today. This session is going to be done in 3 parts. The first part is a simple indoctrination into the psychology behind people coming to your website. That's kind of important to know, especially when writing your copy and even your design. You need to know the psychology. Part 2, we're going to look at the actual 5 pages. I'm going to give you some examples, including some from my peers that have helped and some from good examples I've seen from peers in this industry, as well as Tanya. And part 3, we're going to look at some other ways of accessorizing your website and kind of adding those things that WordPress can offer in a tech-based manner, like plugins and things that can give you that extra boost. All right, so let's begin. Just take a sip of water. Okay, so we're going to begin, and I'm going to share some tips. Now, my tips are going to show you a way that I know a lot of people here are probably not really thinking about competition right now, but if inevitably that comes into people's head, how do I stand out? So part of this talk will also show you how to do things without worrying about, competing with Amy down the road. So let's start with part 1, which is the psychology. So here's what prospects really need to know in order to kind of make that decision to hire you. They honestly need to feel safe. We know when we go to like an e-commerce store, you can grab something that you're familiar with, like a brand. It might be a type of bike, like a BMX bike from, We the People, I don't know, kind of, my brother has a BMX store. But when you're actually ordering services online, you can't really see it before you get it. So they need to feel safe. And that's probably the number one takeaway for what they need to know. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to move on and we're going to mention 4 elements. And step 1 is authority. So I remember when I went to school in grade 1, I kind of fell in love with the classroom setting, and I saw the teacher as this authority. She was like a safe place for me. And I think the real reason as adults, when we kind of grow into seeing people as authorities, and usually we see like college professors, lecturers, and those sort of people, is because they're subject matter experts. So I think you'd all agree that an authority is basically somebody who knows a lot about on the subject they're kind of teaching. So in the chat, you might want to throw in some other elements of what you believe makes a person an authority, but here are my takes. So I believe basically it's about knowledge and expertise, and some ways to show this is obviously through publication. You see those academics, publicizing their thoughts, like thought leadership, etc., doing presentations on their subject matter expertise, and oftentimes they'll get certifications. Like teachers have to, be certified to teach or have a degree here in Australia. I'm sure it's the same in the USA and Canada. So that is number 1, be seen as the authority. And I will mention how this fits into your website as we get to part 2. Number 2 is credibility. So when you go to the doctor, if you went to a doctor who kind of had a shack in his backyard with an old outhouse that was kind of funky smelling and the grass was long, you kind of probably would feel a bit uncomfortable. Well, doctors not only have to look, the part, they actually have to prove being the part. So they also have to, doctors, you see them doing things and getting results, healing people, getting results. So the one argument you might have against authority is sometimes it's just empty words, but combined with your actions, that's when credibility sets in. I think Karen in the chat here mentioned credibility as an important part of a website, and I totally agree. And kind of that's like the doctor there, credible, because they're out doing things in the field. So here's some elements of credibility. I'm just going to quickly check. Tony, can you still hear me? The reason I want to ask this is because I've had some internet issues. So I've actually used a cable to plug myself in, just, a better cable.
Nope.
So,
you're fine. You're perfect.
I guess I have my phone on me if, I disappear, you just buzz me on Facebook.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
will do that.
I'm not going to probably disappear. You never know. Okay. So elements of credibility, basically it's social proof. A lot of social media virtual assistants will go out there and help their business, the one they're working for, get social proof by putting out not just content, which is authority content, but also, showing people what they've achieved. I know when Karen does my social, she'll kind of show testimonials from people or, sort of things that indicate I walk the talk. Other things are accomplishments, accolades, and even case studies. That might be one thing you haven't thought about for your website, case studies. So there's some elements of credibility. Next, we're going to move on to clarity. Now, clarity comes from people knowing what you do. And you see the sales guy here, he obviously has to be clear what type of car he sells, who he sells a car for, before you even feel that it's for you. So there's a saying in this industry, you try to sell to everybody, you sell to nobody. So some elements of clarity are being clear on what you're offering, and positioning and messaging. They're extremely important. And this presentation will actually show you how to sort of come to grips with messaging and why the homepage is the most important page for that. And finally, the number 4 is rapport. So, you really want to build a great rapport with the people you are serving. You don't want to build a rapport with everybody. It comes down to your target market. But like a hairdresser, she knows her target market well, and she talks the talk. Like when you're getting your hair cut, although I admit, Tony, yesterday I got my hair cut by my own mother, and she didn't want to talk to me.
Oh, that's funny.
Yes. But hairdressers are typically known to, talk to you as they cut your hair. In the old days, I've noticed recently they kind of don't really talk much, but, they get to know their clientele, and they say things that make their clientele's eyes light up. They take interest in them. You can sort of feel that, that rapport being built. So that's an example of local businesses, obviously, as you can see. And this sort of transfers onto your website. Even though you're not there in person, you can do that in print, so to speak, digital print. So some takeaways from section 1, and we've got 2 more sections to cover, is that triggers are important to understand when creating a website, like authority as a trigger. And obviously, as well as authority, you've got credibility, clarity, and rapport. And they're the things you really need to keep in mind when creating your website. So part 2, we're actually going to come on to the actual fun part of the presentation. So the important pages and how to create them with, a punch. And there's about 5 important pages every virtual assistant should have. Some people might have a 1-page website, and that's fine. You can turn those pages into sections. Basically, the 5 things you really need to illustrate. Obviously, I think everyone's kind of in agreement. The first one's going to be the home page. You can't really avoid the home page. But you should treat it as an opportunity to actually showcase your entire site in kind of like, almost like a summary, but the very first piece should be your message and positioning. Because when you come to somebody's homepage, you typically don't come there by Googling like, how do I, bake a cake? You go there by looking at somebody who does have a cake shop. And that's like an analogy, right? You're looking for the individual person when you Google the website, and the homepage is typically the first thing Google will show you. If people Google my business, they're going to Google like Mark of Approval or Mark Hunter WordPress, and they're probably going to land on my homepage. And then they already know about me and they want to learn more about me. So that's why I say it usually comes from a branded search or a referral to the website. So it's kind of like a portal. People get to choose on that page where to link to. But the most important part of the homepage is obviously the first section, and I'll talk about that shortly. So basically, we have the hero, which is what I talk about the first section. A lot of people make the mistake, and I'll mention that later, about filling this up, particularly in this industry, and Tonya, you may see the same, when they put a big giant image, and that kind of takes away from above the fold. So the hero is one of the most important parts for the homepage. Obviously, you want to have some kind of copy about the importance of what you do or whatever. It might be like 1, 2, 3 horizontally aligned cards, why hire a virtual assistant. You might talk about the services in one section. Now, these are all sections. If you are not following, these are sections on your homepage. You can even do an outline of who you service. There's so many different things you can do, but this is if you're confused about where to start with your homepage, just grab the notes and take this format. So I'm going to give you some examples now of some homepages from my friends, my peers, and even you, Tonya. So be careful. But these are good examples, so let's go. Now, some of you might know Marie. She's a good friend of mine. She's also in the industry of providing services. I actually helped her with her homepage copy. Before, she was kind of doing, and I admit I've done the same, leading with her service. Like, I do webinars. I'm a webinar production, kind of person. So what we actually did is we changed it to what the end result is that she's doing. So why is she creating webinars? Well, she's creating them because people want to sell the coaching package. She's creating them because, these people are running events like webinars. She also does other things like, summits. And so I decided to just change the copy a little bit to like virtual event services to promote your premium coaching packages. She knows the target market really well. She talks to a lot of people. So we just got, her stuff together, and we sort of massaged the copy. And now when people come from LinkedIn to our website, kind of why we lead it with I instead of, being generic and putting an image here, because people come from LinkedIn and she talks to them first. Now they can see, the core of what she does and why she does it. She does it because people, they want to run these events, but what's holding them back? They don't want to look like a sleazy salesperson. I have my own membership site, and I have a simple headline. It's not the best in the world, but it just tells people what the promise of this membership site is. Learn to build websites and, and other things that will help you work faster online. The things you might not think about, like data entry stuff. It can be tedious, but there are ways you can use technology to speed it up. So sort of like training for that. Now I'm going to talk about some sections of the homepage which are below the fold. So if we go back to here, these would be below the fold, meaning below the visible portion that you see on the screen on a typical screen size, like a desktop or a tablet. So this is Karen. I don't know if Karen, you're in the room, but I took a snap of your website. Karen's got some services on her homepage. I like the way Karen does it. She kind of uses some good copywriting formulas. Yep, Karen, this is really good though, so don't be worried. So one of my favorite ones here is Karen does custom business automation packages. And while that might not be clear to some business owners, what she says is she describes the problem. Like, are you running your business and it's draining you because you're doing all this kind of manual stuff? And will help you automate things. But when you shift over to this one, you get some clarity on what she does as well. So this service section's kind of gelling together. She does social media and digital marketing. And then this copywriting section here, and it doesn't have to be a lot. You see, when you write your website stuff, it doesn't have to be a lot. And Karen, I believe you're using Elementor, so you can actually lay it out design-wise. She's actually targeting like an objection. A lot of people who get services from typical assistants in the social media industry, they'll say like, well, it's just a cookie cutter solution. Well, Karen's saying, no, I don't do a cookie cutter solution. She's not being aggressive about it. Instead, Karen's saying, these are tailored to you. We go for your strategy. So that's a good example from Karen on a service snippet. And you can click to learn more and go to the services page from there, basically. This is a website I did for a colleague. Now, I wrote this copy as well. I didn't write Karen's copy, just for the record. Karen wrote that, so she's good at copy too. my friend is doing like video marketing, and he's offering services and consulting in video marketing. So we kind of grabbed, the reason he does it. But in this section, it's more or less, and I didn't talk about this section, but you can also do a how it works section. And my friend's more or less selling a course, a program. So we just discussed how the program works on the homepage, so that would give them some insights. And we told them, like, it helps you grow your authority, and here are the elements we use: YouTube marketing, Facebook marketing. But for most people listening in here, you're probably just really interested in services. But you can certainly take some of these examples and use them for your clients as well. And here's an example of a call to action on my website. So I'm saying, like, are you looking for help or advice? Now, this comes after I've introduced the entire message on my homepage. I'm actually have the permission now to tell them what to do next based on what they've learned. So don't forget your call to actions. A lot of lacking things on homepages is basically the call to action. Now, I'm going to try and speed up a little bit, Tony, because I'm kind of getting a bit far behind. But let's talk about the contact and the about page next. The content and the about page should really help people build rapport. So the about page is more or less, it's not all about you, but when they do go to the about page, they do want to learn about you. So talk about how you help them by being you. And that's one thing I talk about on my homepage. Basically, the skills I've acquired in talking to the people in my target market in the last, so many years, and what I've come to understand and how I can help them by being me, by being a programmer, or being somebody who thinks logically, by being a problem solver, like a dog with a bone. So, again, some people tell their journey. I know there's some people you might follow online, like Melissa Ingold, that tells her journey on her about page. The contact page, I'm going to sort of clump these together because they're quite closely related. The contact page should give information, like, mostly we suggest using a contact form, although a lot of local businesses, if you do work with local businesses and take this kind of framework to create their website, they actually want their literal email on the website and their phone number, and that's what they do in that industry. And quite honestly, spammers can find a way to get your email anyway, so having spam protection now is like important, but Google filters it out if you use Gmail. So don't quite worry about spam, but I do recommend a contact form nonetheless. So you can combine these two pages. I recommend doing two separate pages, right? So I recommend separating the about page from this contact page and making it like more or less speak to what you do and how you help them. So I'm going to quickly mention a few highlights from this slide. You might want to mention your skills and qualities and why those help people, make that decision to hire you. You can offer credentials. You might want to offer badges. Some people might offer badges from like certification from Tanya's. I don't know if you still offer it, Tanya. You had a certification for virtual assistants once.
Yes.
Yeah. We can put Tanya's badge there once you graduate. I don't know if the new program has one, but put those badges there, right? And that shows you're affiliated with one of the biggest networks for assistants who actually teach you the stuff on your about page. So you're actually boasting a little bit, and that's fine because it's your about page. So let's talk about the contact page. Most people would say, this is how to contact me. Here's my contact form. I'm going to suggest that you also give them some expectation of how long it takes to receive a response, times you do not work, so you might take, the weekend off, etc. You may also, and I don't actually do this myself, but if you want to go that extra mile, you might want the form to actually redirect to a thank you page for contacting you. And that way, in your analytics, it kind of tracks a goal, like from the contact page to the thank you page, if you're doing analytics. So yeah, that's one way you can actually leverage your contact page. So let me give you some examples very briefly. This is my about page. I just, put my mugshot up there and I write a bit about me. On the bottom of my about page, I have some of my credentials. Now, in reality, these credentials don't really hold any water in a legal or sense of, that I'm certified. It just says that I've done these in reality. People in our own industry will look at these and they'll think, oh, wow, that's a mark certified in digital marketing. But people, if you're targeting traditional business owners, they're probably not going to, give a rat's, but they will actually realize that you have actually gone through, like a 20-hour program to do these things. And that's where the authority comes into place. The credibility is more like the testimonials and how you, if you remember back to those 4 key points, how you apply it. So I hope this is making sense so far. That's correct, Chanel. Sometimes it does go over their heads. So you do want to support each part on your website with kind of support sections following, like the testimonials, to indicate, like Chanel really helped me, manage my team so we got more done and we're able to take that holiday we always wanted after they see Chanel's project management certification. Again, you can have the contact form. This is an example of mine. And I think that's pretty, easy to understand. So what we're going to do is we're going to move on to the services page next, which is page number 4. So I've done homepage, about, contact, and now we're moving on to services. And then we've got one final page after services. So let's talk about the services page. So a lot of people in the industry, and Tanya's seen this many times. In fact, Tanya's, got more experience in a little finger than I'll ever have my entire body. But she's seen people write a list of services, like literally what they do in like 100, maybe 100 bullet points, right? Well, they're probably not as interested in the individual services. That's more like a resume. What your clients really want to know is, the overall service you do, or your flagship service. And that's where the kind of clarity, the number 3 of the triggers, is pointed out to the client in your services. You put your best foot forward first, and they know what you are really well known for. So now if you offer bookkeeping or project management, put that front and center and describe why they need it, and use a bit of copy to help that. There's nothing wrong with doing that, as Tanya calls it, the laundry list, but have that secondary to the actual description of the service and how it will help them. So it's totally okay to list other services, as I said, but put the emphasis on what you do best. Be clear on how it'll help them. One of the biggest objections I get from people I talk to in this industry is, they kind of saying, but what if my client is actually saying, well, what ROI do I get on this? The client's kind of looking at what return will I get? I don't know about you, Tony, but I find a good client will not really ask that because they kind of know it's a process. So if somebody's asking for an ROI, it kind of raises to me a red flag. If they're kind of looking, how quick will it take me to get my money back? If you have the money to invest, it's going to be like a process. So you guys might have experienced similar, but you can more or less see your ROI as like, well, eventually we'll have your business set up, so it'll be like ready, but also it'll create a lot less stress on you while you're trying to do it yourself. It'll lead to more engagement. So ROI is not always about money, and that's the biggest. Oh, thank you, Tanya. Return on investment. So it's not always about money. And that's one of the biggest things people get caught up on. How do I make that money back? It's sometimes ROI is simply about, getting a good night's sleep. A typical services page, really, you just want to indicate your services. And what I typically do is I'll talk about a category of services. I might say, like, this is my programming services. Then I might, under each one, say things like, server repair, like, fixing HD access files, all that kind of geeky stuff, fixing, updating plugins, or rather creating third-party plugins to communicate, and then indicate why they're important. So you can actually, rather than list the services individually, you can actually list a category of services. So think of it that way. And if you only offer one real category, like let's say bookkeeping, then you can, flip this and have like the different types of bookkeeping services or the technology you use. There's really no right or wrong way for, creating a service page. And that's probably why I'm going to show you some examples now, so you actually see some different approaches. So this is one of my services page. Now this is like, if you go to my categories, this would be like my web development category. I actually did not have anything in terms of subcategories. Basically what I did is I said I do web development, and this then I explained the copy to, illustrate why it's important. A lot of people have WordPress websites. The biggest mistake they make is they look for plugins to do everything. They realize there's no one size fits all. Then they realize this plugin has this problem, But if I get this plugin to fix that problem, instead of using, plugin A, then the new plugin B doesn't do this that plugin A did. And then they kind of get confused, frustrated, and angry. So I more or less say, well, I can take plugin A, I can make a few tweaks to the code using some, hooks and filters without touching the code in the plugin. And I can create, what plugin B had by still using, everything that plugin A has to offer. So that was why I do that. A lot of people, have that issue, and that's the part of the market I'm kind of providing and filling, especially for course creators who, have that issue. On your services page, you might also want to have your credentials. This is Tanya's medium age page. That kind of rhymes, nice and easy to say. But Tanya has some logos. So not only is she telling them what she can do, because Tanya, we'll just admit it, Tanya, you charge a premium because you're very experienced. And the charge a premium, let's say you really want to show the proof so people actually don't, think you're a pop-up overnight. So Tanya's showing people her certification and who she's worked for. And you can do the same. I mean, Chanel here, she could offer the organisations she's project managed for in her corporate career. I don't know if everybody's allowed to do that, but if you can do that, that's something you could put as a badge. So what we're going to do is we're going to finish up in this section on the portfolio page. Now this is kind of one of the pages that is most misunderstood, because a lot of people here are not web designers and they think of a portfolio page as being for web designers. So again, it does not have to be for web designers. It can actually just be case studies of how you've helped people, what you've done. I could go out there right now, Tanya, and I could write a case study about what you and I did to speed up, your website, and show, some of the benefits you got out of it, some of the high level things we did without going into detail, because, your target market usually doesn't care about the fine details, just about the consequence basically of what happened, and also any fears they might have on that service, like, will you delete my database? Will blah, blah, blah. You can ease that by saying we did it safely by using this plugin first to double check this. We backed up, Tanya's database 5 different times. And in using case studies, you can actually build that credibility, number 2 of the triggers. And you can actually add the portfolio page. You don't even have to have an individual page, although I recommend you have like a blog post. I'm going to tell you how to do that in the technical section setup shortly. But basically, yeah, you can create case studies for just about anything. And if it's web design, how many times you create a website. Who here creates websites for their clients? I think Karen does. What you may notice is sometimes you create the most beautiful website. Yes, Karen does, and for your client. And then, you put a link instead of, most people put a portfolio item, a link to the website, and then they go to the link, or Farisha creates them. But how many times has somebody actually murdered their website after they didn't want to pay you any extra? They offboarded you because they had the website done, and then a potential prospect clicks on your portfolio, goes to the website, and they see this kind of Picasso mess, right? So, you've got one suggestion there is just do the case study and use screen caps as a gallery of what you did, so there's no confusion as to what you did and what they screwed up later. Yeah, well, Karen, you're not the one who screws it up. Usually the clients screw up their own websites because they don't want to pay monthly. Okay, so we're going to talk about the typical portfolio structure. So each individual page will basically be like a blog post, almost like a case study. It could have images. Images are very good if you have like a graphics like in Canva or whatever. But to actually display the portfolio section, what you can actually do is you can actually go into your settings in WordPress and just give a link to the category and call the category portfolio. That's all you really need to do and most things will support that, right? So that's an easy way to get a portfolio happening. Here's some examples of mine. Now, I've done mine a bit differently, and honestly, my portfolio, and I admit this, is like 5 years old. I haven't even added, Tony, the case study for what you and I did. I haven't added the last 5 years of case studies, so I'm kind of shooting myself in the foot. But I've also kind of built up that flywheel that people trust me because everybody talks about me, whether I like it or not. But my plan in December is basically to update my portfolio. So I'm going to give you some free tips, and then we're going to move on to the last section. The first category of tips is called WordPress tips. So when building these important pages, you might want to use a page builder. I use Elementor. I know Tony uses Divi. WordPress even has its own block editor, also known as Gutenberg, which is getting a lot better in terms of what you can do with it. You can use templates to get started. So if you're looking at a blank slate, as long as you know like the clarity part of it, you can actually go in there and grab a template and fill in the blanks. Yep, that's right, Kimberly. Gutenberg has really gotten good. There's a lot of plugins, even free plugins to get started, that really extend Gutenberg. So I actually use the theme Astra, and it works really well with Gutenberg as well. Contact Form 7 is a free one to get started. I use Gravity Forms. It's kind of a premium theme and a premium plugin, I apologize. But if you get the really expensive one, that's $250 a year, you can use it unlimited times on client sites. And you can also hook it up to just about any autoresponder you want and create like an opt-in form with it as well. So, consider a robust theme. Like I said, Astra. Astra is compatible with like Elementor and Beaver Builder and some of those plugins. So when you actually click to build a website, it'll automatically prepare it for the page builder. And another tip, and I think, I don't know if Tammy's in the audience, she's speaking later. She did mention SiteKit. It took me a while to kind of look at Google SiteKit. I was using like custom snippet code from Google. I think Tammy and I convinced you, Tanya, to install Google SiteKit, and that kind of gives you some stats in your dashboard, and Google's the one who has to take the brunt of, doing the analytics. So I used to use analytic plugins for a quick overview. Now you can use Google SiteKit and get a quick overview right within your dashboard. Some strategic tips when building a website. Define your target market. That's very important. Tanya talks a lot about niching in her own programs. Niching does not necessarily have to be, a target market. It can be a lot of things that can make up a niche. It can be what you offer, what you're good at, a subcategory of what you offer. I might offer WordPress, but I might specialize in WooCommerce for membership sites with recurring payments. And, Karen might specialize in WooCommerce for people selling physical goods. So, think many ways you can define who you help and what you do. That will be really easy for you to create your website. Don't be afraid to choose, work with it for 3 months, and you can pivot if you need to do that. I don't know if Gina's here. I think I saw her comment, but she's, found her way by just basically targeting the people she feels would be good for her and her services. And that's really helped her just make that decision, throw that dart, and move for it. Again, we talk about positioning and packaging your services. There's a difference between an offer and a service. So to keep that in mind, I'm not going to go into detail about that today. I'm sure Tony has resources also on, difference between offer and service. And the final set of tips are the copywriting tips. Now, again, there's a lot of great websites out there, and I'm going to give you a link via Tonya that you can use to check out some of these frameworks. There's the AIDA formula, very simple, like when you write copy snippets: attention, interest, desire, action. There's so many different things you can use to help frame your content for getting attention, but also you have to fill in the blanks with your knowledge of your target market, of the benefits you offer, of the transformations and shifts you give, etc. I suggest when writing website content, write it without judgment. Don't necessarily publish it, but you might write it in like a document, Word, Google Docs. Don't judge what you're writing. You can always come back and review it. If you judge every word you write, you'll never get it written. And clarity, like I said in the number 3 of the tips, always beats cleverness. If you try and be too clever, that can kind of be a turn-off, or it can go over their heads. You just asked me how I know. Being Australian, we have very different humour to some of my international clients, and if I try to be clever with my Australian humour, they go, huh? Just trust me on that. So some takeaways from this section. It's important to create the pages your prospect is looking for, so they get the information they need and they feel kind of safe doing it. Number 3, we're kind of going to finish up here on a lighter note. The kind of time to get, at the crayons and think about how we can make the website look extra nice. So basically ways to leverage a website once we've got all the hard work done. So once you've eaten your vegetables, it's time for the dessert. So here's some things you can do for your website. For the credibility part of things, sometimes having social media links is a really great thing to have. I suggest putting them in your footer. Make sure they're open in a new tab. And that way, if you don't have social media links on your website, it kind of says you don't want to be talked about, and people will talk about you. So just let them. This is what I call an opt-in ribbon. You can have opt-ins on your website. This one's like what we call inline. The opposite is stacked, where you see like horizontally aligned name, email. See if I can illustrate to you. A horizontally aligned opt-in forms like name, email, call to action. This is like a vertical one: name, email, call to action. Neither is right, neither is wrong. It just depends on how you basically want. It's basically a web design, that's all it really is. But the main thing about having an opt-in is giving them a good reason why to sign up for it. Now that's all right, Kimberly. You don't necessarily need to have everything in place at once. You get confused having all your ducks in a row. The important thing is you have a website now, and you can add these things as you need to. The sidebar, like sometimes when you create a list of blog posts, and blog posts are really great for building rapport if you use your own kind of infuse your own personality into that. Sometimes you have a bit of too much space, because you have a blog post that goes, let's just use my magic kind of thing. If your words go from here to here, it can be really hard for the eye to span. But if your words go just from here to here, and then you have a sidebar, you can actually take a benefit of the sidebar by adding like offers. Tonya does that. While she has a blog post, she says, get my free startup kit. So it becomes like your ability to market on your own website. And for the website itself, you can have blog posts. As I said, that is a great way to build rapport. One thing people think about when they think of writing blog posts is they think about work and toil and all this kind of, it's a task. You don't just have to use the blog post for, writing meaningless content. You can do things like the case studies, like I said. This would actually be the people you've helped. How I help VA Network and get their speed up to 99, as Tonya said, on Google metrics or whatever, so she gets more SEO traffic, or how I helped, Marie change her homepage copy so she gets more interest from LinkedIn. And you can just discuss it in here. You can even do interviews. One of the things I'm doing now for an event I'm doing is I'm interviewing people. It's just a Q&A. I send them questions, and then I add them as a blog post, basically. So there's a lot of things you can do with a blog post besides just writing, the typical how-to, the boiled chicken type of, how do you pat a cat and make it purr? Instead, you're going to put some kind of personality. For my e-commerce clients, their customers don't want to read about, how I fell in love with this product, but they want to read about events happening in their area. So, use the blog post strategically. The other thing you can do with your website is create like individual focused funnel pages. And what I mean by that is a page that has minimal navigation, and it has like a direct response, fill out this form or X out of the page. You can do that through a page builder like Elementor. You can, if you're using an Atrophy, you can actually tell it you don't want to show anything but those elements. If you're building a funnel, what I do recommend, have your homepage link and privacy link in the bottom, open them in a new tab, so people can go back to your homepage if they really want. But don't, trick them into making them feel they're trapped. I highly recommend, doing that. So that's one tip. And here's an example of a funnel page I built for a webinar for my own membership site. I was talking about, the value added things you can do for a client who's in the pipeline and is not ready to say yes, kind of like boosters, offer boosters, like things as simple as discounts or buy two, get one, etc. And then I launched that webinar, and we got a fair few interest in it. And because I actually built this landing page, when people clicked on claim my spot, they got a pop-up. So that's one thing you can do to accessorize. Obviously, starting out now, I'm going to suggest you keep it simple and just have an opt-in like I showed you before. Just have one of these in your sidebar. If you don't have anything to give away, just put your newsletter there for now. It's what they don't advise you to do. But for me, having somebody sign up for my newsletter, the small chance of having signed up for a newsletter is greater than having than having nobody sign up because you don't have anything at all while you're trying to think of the perfect giveaway. So then again, takeaways. The work doesn't stop at the pages. The website is always in progress. So here's some accessories you can add. And that's more or less what I got for you. So we're going to say that's a wrap.
That's funny. I like the wrap. Very, very awesome, Mark. Keep going. Oh, look it.
So thanks for listening. Of course, my cat's not inside right now, but if she was, she would want my attention and she'd just want to go to bed after I give it to her. So I hope you found the presentation, interesting. I'm pretty much, pretty much done. There's a link there, courtesy of Tonya. If you go there, you can grab some resources, which is basically a lineup of some blog posts that will really help you implement this. So thank you, Tonya, for having me on. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Mark. Lots of good content there today. Keep your screen up there, Mark, for a bit, please, if you can. Or unless you want to show people around. Yeah, go ahead and show.
It just redirects basically. That's your link, Tonya, and it just redirects basically some, just some blog posts that show you how to position yourself. This one's a really good one. I had one of my assistants write. And this one actually shows some copywriting frameworks to use. So yeah, just have a look at these resources and some copywriting resources. I will add some web design resources and yeah, keep an eye on that page. So again, thank you, Tonya. And that's me.
That's awesome. That's a great page too. Thank you, Mark. Mark has been with us for so long now and always helping us with web page stuff and coding and everything else. Yes, like Karen, he has amazing resources you want to check over. He's got a WordPress study group that maybe you can tell them a little bit about, Mark, if it's happening, and if whatever, it's up to you. But I really recommend at the very least get over and follow Mark. If he has his social links that he's on, or get onto his email list or whatever, or get into his study group. It's awesome. There we go, Karen. You're good. Yes.
Hello, everybody. Yep.
Oh, hi, Mark. There you are.
Get a haircut.
Oh, yeah, we got to put you up there with the haircut there. I haven't been on video too much today, but yeah. If you guys got any questions for Mark about WordPress or, just designing, I know there's a lot of brand new people here that don't even have websites yet, Mark, and this was really good for them to know some of the things eventually you want to have on it, right? At least get something up for now. But
yeah, I apologize for that thing outside making that noise. I hope you can't hear it too loudly.
What is it?
There's some kind of mower or something. Somebody, those blow hedges or whatever they are. It sounds like that. I'll see if I can turn my volume down. Hang on. Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Tony, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you all right.
It's my morning, remember. It's 8:50 a.m., so they're kind of like, doing maintenance in the gardens.
Yeah, that's okay. Haley asked, what basic plugins do you recommend? Like, do you have a blog post or anything about that you can share with us, Mark?
I actually need to review those blog posts because plugins change all the time.
Yeah.
But one of the ones I'll say that it's always been in vogue is Yoast SEO, and that's one Tony uses as well. And we did mention SiteKit too, but with Yoast SEO, you can one of the biggest benefits of that is you can kind of illustrate how your post will look like when it's shared on social media. So rather than, social media deciding to choose a summary, you can actually use Yoast to tell social media what snippet to use and what image to use when it's shared and across different platforms. Google SiteKit is another one that Tonya and I'm using. It allows you to easily add your Google Analytics and Google Webmasters. It shows you an overview of how many people are hitting your website in your dashboard, so you don't have to go to analytics.google.com every day, which is kind of scary to go to even once a week. And I do it, but I don't want to do it. Other plugins you might want to, if you want a page builder, there are a few out there. You just I would suggest the hardest thing is basically designing yourself. I know that Tony uses Divi and it has a lot of templates. Elementor has a lot of templates. For Astra has a lot of templates for the different page builders like Elementor, Beaver Builder, and Brizzy. I don't even know what that is.
What's
So
the link? What was that last one? Asta or something? What was that? We're trying to find the links for
yes,
those.
let me Astra sites. So if you go to Astra sites, in fact, let me just Google it and bring it up. Do you mind if I just put it over top of here?
Yeah, just put them into the chat area or wherever. Yeah, that will work too.
So you can get these sites built on Elementor, Beaver Builder, or something called Brizzy, or even Gutenberg that are built in Block Editor. Here's a tip: all the Gutenberg ones are free. The other ones you have to pay for some of the templates. But you go to Elementor if you want to use that plugin. You can choose only to view the free templates, and you can kind of pop up a website fairly quickly and just edit it like that, using the Astra theme. So I'm going to pop in that here. That's a theme though, Tonya. So obviously you don't want to change the theme if you have a theme already.
I'm going to ask a really stupid question. So don't be afraid to ask stupid questions, guys. I should know this, but I don't really know this. What is Gutenberg?
Gutenberg is the block editor. The reason you don't know what it is because you install plugins to prevent it from. So when you go into WordPress and build a post, WordPress has a new editor that actually allows you to create things like galleries, and it kind of lets you have a page. Okay, let me put this into context for you, Tonya. You know how you use Divi?
Mm-hmm.
You know how you have the ability to use Divi on the back end instead of on the front end, meaning drag things in like a block kind of wireframe.
Mm-hmm.
Blocks is basically, Gutenberg is the same sort of thing, known as a block editor. You can use it on blog post page that's built into WordPress, but it doesn't have a visual component like Divi. It's all like the wireframe, drag and drop, and then what you see is what you get when you publish.
Okay.
Built into WordPress, basically. Now, it actually increases the speed of WordPress a lot by going that route for using the technologies that support it.
Gotcha.
Page builders will always be necessary, but I don't recommend using a page builder on a blog post. I only recommend using page builders like for your homepage, landing page, about page. I don't recommend using a page builder for. Imagine if you write 1,000 blog posts and suddenly the page builder goes out of fashion, and then what are you going to do? Recreate all 1,000 blog posts with another page builder?
Yeah, there's just so much with. I love the diversity of WordPress. There's a question here: why use WordPress versus something ready to use like Squarespace or Wix or something? Do you have any comments on that?
It's a really great question. I was going to say WordFence. WordPress is, as Tony said, extremely flexible. I mean, I'm not saying you have to use it, but I'm saying if you plan to scale, it's much easier to add things onto WordPress later. I mean, one of my colleagues, Marie, she started off with, what was it, Tonya, Wix?
Oh, yes, I would think it was Wix.
It was Wix. And basically, she found it easy to get someone to build. She had to get someone to build the website anyway because she wasn't really into that sort of industry. So it cost her to have somebody build the website and pay monthly for Wix. And then she found, as she needed to add more things, simple things, she had to pay Wix an additional $10 a month for all these add-ons. With WordPress, it has a lot of free and paid plugins. So what you can actually do is you can extend and sort of test the waters with a free plugin and upgrade if you need more power. That's how it mainly works. It's kind of like a community built thing. If you're going to use WordPress, you do need your own hosting. So Wix does supply hosting. So does Shopify. Just be very careful when you're getting WordPress hosting, not to try and cheap out. Hosting is actually an investment. It's not an expense. I built a real estate website for a client. She pays all the money for the real estate website. Then she gets economy hosting. And then she's telling me the site's not running. It's taking it's like a GoDaddy site right now. It's like taking 1 minute to load a page. And I'm saying, the hosting's like important.
Mm-hmm.
The WordPress, you will need your domain name and hosting, but it's something that will grow with you, basically. And Tony, you said you had a family member once who had a website built with some other, I think, Yellow Page or somebody, and now they want to get that rebuilt, then they're going to have somebody rebuild it from scratch as opposed to being able to scale up with what they've got right now because they're outgrowing it, basically.
Yeah, I actually, here's a story. I told this story earlier this week, but I had a VA come to me. She was spending up to $200 on her Wix website because they hit you for everything, right? Like if you want to put PayPal on there or buttons or a form or a calendar or all these things that I you don't have to have, but it would be nice to get paid online through your website, that at the bare minimum. But like if she wanted to have an email list and all these different things, all of this, she was paying up to $200, almost $200 per month. I'm not talking per year, per month. And I says, oh man, like I can give you, you're a VA insider. So you get hosting for a year for $75 as a VA insider, $10 for a domain name, $85 for the whole year. And we'll put a WordPress website up there with Divi, because that's included with my VA insiders. And, under $100, you can get all that just by being a VA insider. Here she's paying $200 a month, like craziness, right? But you don't know any different. That's the thing. You don't know any different when you first start out, and it happens, right?
Brings up a great point for anybody in this room thinking about WordPress and expenses building up with that too. WordPress often has a habit of attracting a community that offer developer licenses. Like you buy this, you get multiple seats. So if you think of grabbing, like Tanya's got a license with Div, which is like an unlimited license for a fee every year. And what she can actually do is, what you can do too, is you can get the tech stack you want to be comfortable with, and you can offer it to multiple clients. And it's part of your one-time, ongoing operating costs. It's no longer a gross margin cost, because it's part of, you get clients to support it. You can have as many clients as you want, or maybe, as many as you can fit into that license. So you're actually, leveraging what you've got now instead of paying one-on-one for, $200 a month, like Tanya said.
Mm-hmm.
That could be you could have like multiple clients paying you like that per month, because you've got $10,000 worth of technology.
Kimberly says, be careful. Don't go with WordPress.com, go with WordPress.org. And maybe you can explain the difference with that, Mark. I mean, I'd rather see them at WordPress.com and we can push them over to WordPress.org later. At least it's an easier process, right, than redoing your whole website.
Oh, that is true. Well, Kimberly's got a great point. So WordPress.com, WordPress.org are two very different things. WordPress.com is like, think of it as like a subscription-based platform where WordPress themselves, automatically the owners of WordPress, are using their own tool, but not giving you the ownership of that tool. Basically, it's like a membership base. You pay membership for their platform, and they supply, just like I said before, Kimberly, about, you could be offering $200 a month for each client and providing them all these plugins. Well, WordPress is doing the same thing. They're not stupid, but you can actually download WordPress from WordPress.org or get a host and install your own WordPress website. So you're actually in control of the script. You're in control of the website. Let me try and put this into context. Has anybody heard of things like Wix, Click, like Teachable, ClickFunnels, all these kind of platforms where you sign up, Shopify?
Yep.
That's basically like WordPress.com. It's a software as a service. You sign up. As long as you're signed up, you have access to their infrastructure. Once you leave, you lose everything. As Kimberly said, WordPress.org, you're actually downloading the script, so it stays with you. And if ever your host, we can't afford the hosting, you download what you want into a file, you download the database, you download the file system, you put it somewhere safe, even on a USB stick across the other side of the room if you have to, and you can install it later, reinstall it. So yeah, Kimberly, that's actually a great point to bring up. Somebody else asked about speed. I think it was Regina.
About what? What is that?
Yeah, Regina asked in the chat. I saw somebody asked about speed.
Speed.
Speeding up your WordPress website, sorry.
Oh, yes. Go ahead.
So
I don't see that one, but go ahead and answer it.
Oh, it was in
that
the
area.
I just remember seeing it. I can't see it now. For myself and Tanya, I use WP Rocket. Now, it's actually a premium caching plugin, meaning I pay $200 a year. I get unlimited licenses. So I was able to, give Tanya one, doesn't cost me anything extra. And we get to really speed up a website. And what WP Rocket does well is it is smart in that it knows Tanya's with Liquid Web, because Liquid Web is one of the most powerful, most well-known hosts. So it optimizes without asking you how to optimize it. I'm with Cloudways, and it knows Cloudways.
Mark, can you put can you put your WordPress Rocket link in there for us, even your affiliate link if you want, if you got it handy. I'm going to order from Mark's thing too. I just got overwhelmed with the summit, Mark. I'm still going to get in on that deal. So
Okay, I will give you. I'm not going to give you the affiliate link now because I don't have it handy, but I will share
Okay. Yeah,
my
share it.
raw link. It's got 20% off at the moment, and now this is real. Some people say 20% off, but this is actually they usually don't offer a discount. This is because Black Friday, I think. But this is really powerful caching plugin. It knows the most popular hosting providers. The other caching plugin is a free one. It's one we I think used to use, Tonya. It's extremely powerful, but it's extremely complicated. And I don't
I like
blame
the WordPress rocket you have on our website now. Oh yeah, we did used to have that, didn't we?
this. Now this is actually a good one if you can't afford to pay for WP Rocket. It will take a bit of time tweaking it to be correct for your host. Obviously, this guy's not going to create a free plug and then expect to do the heavy lifting. And I don't blame him. I wouldn't want to create something this great for free and then give away. WP Rocket they're getting money, so that's why they can afford to make it easier for you. This guy just gives you the tools, and you have to do the settings yourself basically to get it to work for you. I remember we're doing this with Tonya, and like with Liquid Web, if you say like advanced, what was it? If you cache the system for the advanced stash section, apparently Liquid Web doesn't deal with that well. But if you do the advanced with like a SiteGround, it loves that. And there's all these different combinations of settings. It's like 100 different combinations. That's why if you can afford WP Rocket, it'll do the work for you. It'll detect your host and it'll set up the caching. So you look at my website, just remember Zoom slows things down. You can see how quick my website loads, right? Like it's pretty quick. I'll admit a lot of the stuff is like cached into the browser, but WP Rocket helps do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty. This page probably hasn't been loaded up, so you see how fast it is.
And you've only got like a second to grab a person's attention, and they're off to another website.
Yeah, like when I clicked on your link before, the one that you put in the chat, the V8 Jot, it kept loading. It didn't go anywhere, Tonya. And I'm not saying that to criticize, but if that was the website taken, I clicked out before I gave it a chance after 10 seconds. People will do that, trust me. I think you got the link wrong, quite honestly, the V8 Jot link.
I might have had the link wrong. Yeah.
It says, you get the link wrong, people are impatient. So, yeah.
And yesterday I put the whole VA Jot down by fiddling around with my HT-access file. So that might have been when you checked it.
Well, it's a bad gateway or something, or server error, but yeah, it might be. I don't know why it did that. Yeah, it could be a redirect loop. That's happened to you a few times, redirection loops.
Yeah, could be. I have so many redirects all over the place, but yeah, that's my little shorty link. Is everybody's been seeing me use that, but a lot of the stuff that we talk about can be on that page too. It's just like my resource, like my it's my VA Bitly.
Do you want me to answer these last two questions for you?
Yes, they're in the chat or in the Q&A part.
I do want to advise if anybody does want to follow me. I don't actually have a newsletter up at the moment, but I'm kind of running this own event, which is in November. Whether you come to the event or not, just get your ticket and you'll be on my list, so you can actually follow up with me.
Cool.
List. So whether you want to attend the event or not, this will be using your link, Tonya. You'll probably see. I have to do some.
That's all right. I'm not too worried about it. You've helped me so many times, Mark.
Basically, it doesn't cost you anything to get on the list, and you'll be able to receive tips from me about WordPress. So let me ask these two questions.
Yeah, Karen's got one. How do you feel about WordFence? I'm curious about that too.
Yeah, I actually like WordFence. There are some things I feel it didn't do at first, but it's kind of caught up. But one of the most important things is the security plugin. It's a security plugin for those who don't know, so it'll protect you against threats. The premium version of WordFence, will protect you more by releasing quicker releases, but the free one you have to wait for some of the releases. Basically, It's really good. It protects you in that you can lock people. If people are trying to hack into your site by logging in and guessing your password, it'll put them into like a naughty room, timeout. It'll protect against certain IP addresses that are known bad eggs from getting into your server. It also protects against user enumeration, which is one thing people don't realize is if you do not have a security plugin and you're running like an e-commerce site and you have hackers can type in a certain URL, and WordPress has to support this because it's built into WordPress. They can actually see every single name and email address of every single member or customer on your website by going to the user enumeration URL. So having WordFence will stop that from anybody who's not authorized to view it. And that will protect you and your customers from people scraping their emails. So there's a lot of things. A lot of things.
That's cool. We use it, but I didn't really know if it was doing anything, Mark. So
well, that's the thing, you don't know, but it's set and forget. If you don't use it, you can actually get reports and see how many things have been blocked.
Yeah.
It also it's one of the rare free versions that has the ability to scan your entire system. You could do a scan through Security externally, but it's like if think of it when you go to the doctor and somebody finds something wrong with you, the doctor, they do blood tests. Well, WordFence is like the blood tests. I could look at Tonya right now and I could look at her eyes and say, you look kind of tired. You need to get sleep, right? But that's because I'm only scanning Tonya from the outside. Like I'm doing this to Tonya. Basically, I'm looking at Tonya's eyes. This is Tonya's eyes, and I'm making assumptions. WordFence is actually in the admin area, so it's actually taken Tonya's blood results, and it's inside her body, and it says, "No, Tonya's not tired. She's got a thyroid issue." Just make it up, okay? But you see the analogy. So WordFence is actually, it's not good enough to have a scan from. It's not good enough to put URL into a platform, let it scan you. You have to have something in the website that knows is attached to the heartbeat of the website.
Perfect.
WordFence can do that too. I know it's a long-winded answer, but I think it's just me trying
to explain. It's a great answer. Cynthia, she asks, can you ever, I like that, can you ever become proficient in WordPress without prior coding knowledge, or should we take a coding course?
I'm going to say if you don't want to code and you have no inkling, don't take a coding course. WordPress provides enough to do it without coding, like the page builders like Divi and Elementor. You don't even need a web design course. You just need to install a template and edit things. For programming, there are so many different plugins out there. Like you want to find a plugin. Let's just think, what's something you might want to do, Cynthia, on your website? Let's think of something that's just simple, like let's just say membership, right? So not so simple. I don't think in simple terms, Tonya.
I know.
You know me well. So you can find a plugin a free starter plugin that'll actually allow you to do a membership plugin. So when somebody goes to a certain page, rather than show the world, let me give you an example. If I go to my WordPress study group and I go to my training, WordPress would normally allow people to see this because I've got a membership plugin. You're not seeing it until you pay. So basically, these people are creating plugins. They're the programmers. You don't need to be the programmer, basically. If you want to learn programming, that's great. If you don't, you don't need to.
I know how to do WordPress, and I'm not a coder. Actually, I do know a little bit about HTML, but I can't even remember that anymore. Like, it's just like, you just don't even need it. It's you get, or what is it? What you see is what you get. I can just drag things around, and sometimes I make a real mess of things too, but it's no different than having a Wix or Squarespace now. It's kind of similar. That's like WordPress, right? Like if you can use, I always say, if you can use Word, Microsoft Office, it's the same idea. Mark will show you the inside, but it's just like highlight a thing and not Control B, but you can bold it or you can italicize it and stuff like that. It's pretty simple.
It is. So you don't need to, like Tanya said. But I'll tell you where programming does come in handy. It's only if you're offering it to your clients as a service. Like this, when I was building this, I added some custom code of my own because I can program. I just added this to integrate with the plugins. I told WooCommerce to remove the billing fields. I don't want the billing fields because by me having the billing fields, people aren't going to sign up because they're going to think, what do I have to enter my entire address just to get a free ticket, right? So I unset those fields, right? Some clients will need these customizations. You can find somebody to help you. I don't recommend you try programming if you can't do it. Don't try it. Sometimes understanding things like how servers work can really be powerful. Like you get a HTTP access error like Tonya got, you'll know how to fix that issue, right?
Not always. I sometimes have to call Mark.
And CSS, it's a styling language. You can actually, if you know CSS, you can actually make a client's website look more beautiful by customizing something you can't do with a page builder. Change the color or change the format of something with CSS. So it can be handy, but if you're gonna learn it for yourself to build a website, don't. If you're gonna offer it to a client as a service and you want to learn it, I can make a lot of money per hour because I'm one of the best programmers my clients know.
Mhm.
And that's why they'll pay the big bucks, because they go to other programmers and they don't get the value they get from me. But I've been doing this for 20 years, or almost 20 years programming.
Yeah, it's pretty much, it's really easy. WordPress, if you want to get into the coding and the other side of it, you can do that too, but you don't have to. I mean, you can very easily, just know enough to change your edits on your website and different stuff like that. It's kind of similar to any of them out there, right? But if you did want to learn all that, you could, but you don't have to have a WordPress. Same as you don't have to know that for any of those other Squarespaces and Wixes. And you may find that you don't like what you design, and then you hire someone to put the theme on and fix it the way you want it, and then you look after it and maintain it afterwards. That's what I do.
You can do that too, yeah. That's, if you don't feel comfortable building a website, like, definitely you can actually partner with somebody who builds them and you maintain them monthly. That's another. And Kimberly put a great resource. You're a woman after my own heart. I love that resource. W3 Schools. If you want to learn a bit about, web technology, HTML and CSS are a great place to start, and W3 Schools is awesome. In fact, they will give you snippets almost off the bat that you can use to achieve certain things without having to learn the programming. Remember, Tony, that time you had that pricing table, you wanted to do we had the issue with a plugin for pricing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could have created the own plugin, but you said, don't go into that. We're not going to worry about it. We'll just improvise. Sometimes you have to. But W3 Schools offers resources that we could have grabbed something from there if we wanted to.
Yeah. But don't be afraid of WordPress. You don't need to know coding. You don't need to know HTML. You don't have to know any of that to just have a basic website to get your VA business up online. I don't want you to be scared of WordPress. WordPress is the way to go. It's, even if you use their blank WordPress template, okay, you can put some pretty colors on there and different stuff and have something ready to go and give to your clients. I mean, our website will always be in a work in progress because, and you probably know that even more than anybody else, Mark, you're probably changing yours every other day or something, but you will change it from day to day and not day to day, year to year, maybe, let's say, maybe, but yeah, not that bad, but it is very simple, the WordPress. I don't know anything about WordPress stuff, not very much, and I can install and put one in an hour. It's not that hard, just a real basic thing though, the harder part is, I think, coming up with the content and the navigation, the different things that Mark was talking about today. So this is definitely a webinar you're going to want to go back to and watch again and see if you can implement some of those things. The planning stages is probably the harder part than putting it all together, right, Mark?
Yeah. And if you ever deal with a web design client, you've got to get the content. Well, they don't have content, They don't know what to write, and they realize, oh, I thought you were going to do that. If I'm building you an entry-level website, I'm not going to do the content.
No.
It is the hard part, Tanya. You have to plan. You have to know who you serve. Like Tanya talks about niching all the time. You don't have to get too granular. There's different ways to niche. As I said, Tanya probably has resources on that. And then you basically have to decide you have to write the copy and based on the strategy, why you want to build a website, who you want to hook in. That's the hardest part. Once you've got that, building the website will feel like a weight off your shoulders. The reason people often do struggle is they think they're struggling because WordPress is difficult. They're struggling because they don't know what they're doing. They haven't done the planning first.
Yeah, I think the struggle is, what am I going to put on my website, more than actually putting the website together, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And we've got some big geeks in the audience today. So don't let these geeks scare you first timers off. Tammy's talking about C++ and all these things now. Tammy, stop. You're going to scare them off. You don't need to know any of that stuff, guys. I'm just teasing you, Tammy. WordPress.org is very doable. You could easily learn enough to have your website up and going quite quickly. And, talk to us, talk to the VA insiders. Go join Mark's WordPress study group. There's lots of people out there to help. Mark's in our forum and our VA insiders as well. He always answers questions and stuff. And, we've got your back there. So don't be afraid of the WordPress.org. I almost said .com, but don't be afraid of that. That's our recommendation, only because we want to save you money. Okay, because if you go the other way, I guarantee you it will be free until you want to start making some money with your website. And as soon as you want to start making money, they're going to start charging you for it. So thanks, Mark. It's been really great. I'm going to close the recording off here in a second just to keep it in the right time zone here or time. But you've been wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing all your client attracting website tips, and thrilled to have you be part of our speaker lineup this week. And thank you, Mark. You are awesome.
Appreciate that.